Yeah, it says I
All
got a.
right, we live, we live. So welcome everybody to Controversial
We're
One-on-One with
live.
Infamous D. And today I got actually a badass guest, Mr. Cash Jackson. Cash, you want to introduce yourself to the people that don't know you?
Yeah, sure thing, man. I appreciate you having me on your show today. It's always a joy to just join other liberty-minded people that talk about issues, that are really important in this country. And it's some many libertarians know I ran for governor of Illinois in 2018, and predominantly the issue that concerned me the most was that of parental rights, and it just happened because I was going through a significant custody proceeding in the Lake County courts there in Northeast Illinois, right up on the Waukegan border. As a matter of fact, they're just south of Kenosha, Wisconsin, where Kyle Rittenhouse had shot the three individuals there. So Lake County is just directly south of that. And it was those experiences inside that family law court where it really opened up my eyes to the fact that my time thought it had, which should have been at that time about 18 years of service in defending the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I really had to come to a very difficult conclusion that I had not, in fact, defended the Constitution against domestic enemies. And it didn't take a lot of thinking to acknowledge this fact, based upon the fact, well, we're simply, as service members, we're sent out wherever they send us to. And you're not dealing with domestic issues and constitutional violations, like in my case, when you're underneath the ocean for months on end. And so, um, it was kind of a reckoning that I had to come to. And now I extensively fight to reform family law. I have not seen my children in over 2 years. I'm a political refugee out of the state of Illinois. They've already incarcerated me twice, once into a debtor's prison, another time um, they booked me in just so they could get another mugshot of me and intimidate me. And I continue to speak out against them. I continue to tell them where they can stick it. And people say, well, Cash, that's why you don't see your kids. And I say, and that's precisely why I fight, because if they can take away my children for exercising my First Amendment right peacefully without having ever harmed anyone or done anything to hurt another person, they can do it to you. And that's why it's so important that I continue to speak out.
Yeah, definitely. And that's what people got to understand because, like, people have this idea where they assume that just because of what you say or how you act, that that's the reason you have the problems you have. Like, not you specifically, but people in general, like they like to be, I guess, judgmental, you could call it. And
Well, here's
go ahead.
maybe your largest problem that you have in this nation is that the American people are entirely too trusting of government. They believe, simply because they have not been through the judicial system, that largely it operates as it should. It operates probably the most efficiently and effectively and judicially than any other country. And people are incredibly ignorant, naive, and wrong about that, because once you find yourself in the midst of a family law case, um, you're going to get chewed up and spit out oftentimes. Many do come out of there just fine, and they walk in and have mutual agreements with one another, and they get a good judge, and everything goes smoothly. But there's millions that do not happen that way. And it's contributing to the suicide rate in this nation, especially amongst middle-aged white men. It is one of the leading causes for bankruptcies in this nation, because that's all it's about. They use your children, they weaponize your children against you, and then they'll strip you of your natural rights and then force you to pay incredible sums of money just to not be pushed out of your children's lives. And if you're outspoken like I am, they'll just sever contact.
Like, I feel like it's a form of taxation. Like, they use children as pawns to kind of like get money from parents, like one way or another. Like, what do you think about that? Like, about my opinion on that?
here, can I speak openly and frankly on this show, or do I have to have my
Oh
filter
yeah, it's,
on?
we're uncensored, unfiltered. If Facebook ends up banning us for saying some wrong shit, fuck them. You know, we get sucked. We get sucked.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I just wanted to respect your platform before I go down any holes using some salty ass sailor language that I'm known to use.
Nah, go ahead. We say all
Here's
kinds
the
of shit.
thing: if you, it's no surprise to me right now that our nation is under critical draconian lockdown with these COVID measures. It's no surprise to me because for decades we have systematically decimated our communities by removing fathers from homes through three specific domestic pieces of domestic policy. The war on drugs, we talk about all the fucking time as libertarians. We talk about the welfare state that incentivizes single motherhood. We rarely ever get to an entire branch of government that has developed itself into a multi-billion, if not trillion-dollar industry that is weaponizing children against fucking parents and pitting mothers against father. It's part of the divisiveness in this nation at the portrayal of millions of men, just like Tom the Rhino shitbird Cotton did here the other day in Congress when he introduced a piece of federal legislation to increase child support payments on non-custodial parents. So the days of people saying to me, Kash, domestic relations is a fucking 10th Amendment states' rights issue, you're a fucking idiot, right? Because you don't know that there's federal funding that's involved. You don't know that for the states to receive this federal funding, they've got to make one parent a visitor. Historically and statistically, that's dads. Dads pay the child support. When dads pay the child support, the state props up a larger government, and libertarians are supposed to be all about shrinking government. But too many of them don't want to educate themselves on this issue. They say, well, Kash is a one-issue guy. That one fucking issue, driving children out of the homes or the lives of fathers, is what is directly what is contributing to increased rates of incarceration, due to increased rates of crime, due to increased emotional, mental, and behavioral health disorders from a lack of not having that mentoring and that stability that is brought by the father, and every other natural aspect that God or nature intended, whatever your belief system, I don't care. It was intended that a child had a mother and a father to share equal responsibility in rearing these kids. States are ensuring we don't get to fucking raise our children. And yes, it's far worse in taxation. We are serfs. Okay, you understand that? That they're using us as cattle to produce for them. And they're using our children as a primary driver of the production of the income for the players inside the judicial system.
And I've noticed that too, like among libertarian groups, that a lot of libertarians have this mentality where everything's okay as long as it's compatible with their beliefs. So they like to like impose their beliefs, like they're okay with restricting liberty as long as they're okay with it. And that's kind of fucked up in my opinion, because that's not what a real libertarian is, you know?
It is fucked up. No, they don't. Look, so many libertarians, and I had one say this today. I mean, and it's one reason I brought it up. They're on the Chicago Libertarian Party Facebook page. I'd shared my podcast over there, and they graciously put it up for me. And somebody commented, isn't this the one issue guy that was, I don't know, he said something about basically touting Trump is the best of the best at some point in time. I don't know what the fuck he was talking about there, other than the fact, look, number one, we're working inside the constraints of a fucked up government. Can we agree to that? All of us are, right? Those of us who are seeking liberty are doing so in every faucet imaginable. We've got people who are arguing the cannabis issue. We've got people who are arguing to legalize fucking prostitution. We've got people that are arguing for if the states have developed policies and practices that are unconstitutional, that are systematically violating due process rights, and the fact that we can't get the Libertarian Party 110% on board with leading this, Leading the fight in this is fucking troubling to me as a libertarian. Nothing is more important than our children. More children are trafficked. We hear a lot about human trafficking, but nobody wants to discuss the fact that it's the state and the federal government that sets the stage for most American children to be trafficked into human trafficking rings. They push out a father with federal incentives, right? They put dad on every other weekend and a few hours on Wednesdays if he's fucking lucky. Then he's going to pay a lot of that child support. Okay. When the state reports to the feds that they collected the child support, they receive federal funding if it's a Title IV case. They receive basically bonuses for their collections, their successful and timely collections of child support and paternity establishment. They're not even establishing paternity. What they're doing is they're leveraging poor mothers who may or may not know the father of the children to just write a name down on the birth certificate, because if they don't, they're not going to let the single mom who might need that welfare and might need those benefits at that moment. They're not going to let her have it until she writes down a name on the birth certificate, regardless of whether or not any proof has ever been rendered of who the father of the children is. And so then they'll take fathers, just like they did this gentleman by the name of, I think it's Carnell Smith, in, I want to say he was in Georgia or Michigan. And they arrested him on back child support. He owed like 70 grand or 60 grand in back child support on a child that DNA proved wasn't his. But because he didn't find out until the child was, I think, 8 or 9 or 10, he never found out about this. He just happened to go through a stop sign or did a rolling stop, got pulled over, and found out there was a warrant for his arrest. They arrest the guy, throw him in prison. He finds out what for. He thinks it'll just get worked out pretty quickly in the court. I don't have any children. He does a DNA test to clear himself. The judge comes back and says, I'm sorry, sir. In this state, I think it was Michigan again, you've only got 4 years to contest paternity. And because it's beyond the 4 years, you're now liable for those monies. You owe the state these monies. The child support, the majority of child support owed in this country is owed by fathers living at and below the poverty line. They're struggling themselves to get by, and the states can take up to 65% of a working man's income. 65 fucking percent. What genius worked that out in their mind that you could take 65% of a man's labor and that he could survive? We're so stupid. People like Tom Cotton in this country are so fucking stupid. Okay, they can't rationalize that when a married couple separates, or even somebody who is cohabitating together, okay, it's quite common in this country that both of them are working to provide, because a dollar doesn't go as far these days, and we realize that. And so when they separate, there's no increase in revenue. They probably still have their same 2 jobs, because they're not thinking, the father's not thinking he's getting ready to get put through the fucking ringer, okay? Because now he's going to have to provide for 100% of his new home. That significant increase in liabilities, and anybody who does their bills, the average family knows the largest liability an American family has is their mortgage or their rent, their shelter, right? There are 4 walls around them. That's their largest liability. And when this couple separates, they now have to provide for 2 homes on the same income. The average American family could never afford 2 homes of the same size, right? Couldn't do it. But these people are too stupid to rationalize that. And actually, I don't think that they're too stupid. I think that they're malicious at this juncture. They do fucking know,
I believe
that
that
they're
too,
doing
that
it for purposes that they're not revealing to the American people.
Yeah,
They do know. They know what the fuck they're doing. There's too much data out there about fatherless homes. There's too much data.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
They're
definitely
all in bed
obvious.
together.
It's
right?
definitely too obvious. And sorry to cut you off. I just want to like before I forget to ask you some of the questions about things you mentioned. So starting off with the Libertarian Party, I feel like sometimes it's a bad connotation to even call myself a libertarian. You know what I'm saying? Because they tend to believe the people in the Libertarian.
There's reason for that.
You know, I don't even want to call myself a libertarian anymore. I just want to call myself an independent free thinker or something. You know, that happens to be part of the Libertarian Party, like an official member. You know, and
why is that? What is it about what is it? Just be honest. Just be honest with me. Just get to the point about what bugs you about the Libertarian Party and why
I
you
feel
consider
like
that you might be better off as an independent?
as far as like for example, you know how not like in most campaigns you hear people talk about healthcare, education, and all this stuff, and they got their way of trying to like provide that for the
Right.
people, but our party doesn't really like campaign towards that. Like they don't say how we could provide the like they don't talk about the alternative, the libertarian way, you know. And that's one of the issues I have with the party. I'm
Right.
trying to do like some
Yeah.
kind of damage control, but and then when I try to like promote it, they'll kind of like knock me down, like the same way they try to knock you down when you share your podcast. They try to like knock me down, like why you
Hey, just
false advertising. I'm like, what do you mean? That's like an attention getter, so they could ask. I'm begging the question, how can you provide that as a libertarian? You know, and I'm like, oh, I'm glad you asked. You know,
right.
voluntary crowdfunding. That's what we believe in, and it's actually effective. You know, I even tell them like we don't
Well,
have to
yeah,
be in office
even
to do that. We just got to change the tax code. You know, like, do you got any
even
remarks on that? On what I
beyond
said?
that, I think there's yeah, the solution, in my opinion, just lies within the free market and getting government out of healthcare altogether. Of
Yeah,
course, like anything else, there's a lot of paid lobbyists that represent these larger healthcare facilities, hospitals, practices, those with the money to pay the lobbyists to get the favor within the states and federal government, right? Those are the ones who are operating. Now, if we could get government the hell out of healthcare, and stop pretending as though government doesn't waste money and that they do this shit efficiently. We know government doesn't do fuck all. The only thing they do efficiently is take your money. That's it. That's the only thing that they have,
that's their
really
specialty.
put a
You could
lot of effort into
say.
achieving
Yeah,
and being perfectionists at. That's their fucking specialty, is taking your money and taking your liberties. So we should never be going to government and going, hey, we want you to solve this problem. What we should be doing is abolishing bullshit statutes and penal codes, fucking chopping them off at their knees, and allow the free market to fix itself and correct itself. It will take time. And that's the thing that Americans don't want, right? They want it right now, right in front of the face. They want a solution right now. Okay. I can offer you a solution. The solution is, and to implement right now, get government the fuck out of everything that we can. Okay. Now,
yeah,
you have to be intelligent enough to realize that the free market will have to innovate and design and implement those solutions, right? If
yeah.
you've
Like
got a
adapt
problem
to
out
the
there
changes.
that's not being solved, let's say the crime's high. Let's say if the crime was high in my region here, okay?
Yeah,
I live very rural, right? It takes a long time, and I'm in a big county. It takes a long time for one of these deputies to get over to where I'm at, okay? We provide our own safety, our own security, right? We do that. We ask the police to do entirely too much. We could reduce the size of government by reducing the amount of activity and involvement and negative interactions we have our police doing, okay? We spend a tremendous amount of tax dollars. Take Suffolk County, New York, for example. When you start incorporating officers overtime, they will make between $150,000 to $200,000 a year. A police officer in Suffolk County, New York. They make remarkable amounts of. Now, I'm not against the man making good money who puts his life at risk, but he shouldn't be placing his life at risk, kicking in the door or pulling over and patting down a college student who's got a little pot in his boot. That's complete bullshit, right? Those are deprivations of natural liberties because God made weed, not me. So if you got a problem with it, you take it up with the creator or Mother Nature, whoever you got a fucking problem with. But we
exactly.
should be able to use those things
Yeah,
and continue to get government out, right? You should be able to. I'm a disabled veteran. I struggle with major depressive disorder. Why? As a result of the state, right? The state interfering and overstepping its federal authority, I'm sorry, its statutory authority by trampling on my constitutional rights for the last 6 years and my due process rights. Very clear. I could spend all day on this. But in doing so, that is what in fact caused the major depression that I struggle with. I began medicating in 2018 whenever they severed contact with my daughter because it was so traumatic to me what they did. I began using cannabis as a way to cope as I ran for governor in Illinois. So not only did they sever contact with my daughter in March of 2018. Then after the election was over in November of 2018, they severed contact with my son, both times done illegally. And the Libertarian Party largely doesn't give a fuck. And that's the problem. It's because they're ignorant. We should care when citizens' children are taken from them, and there's reprisals against those of us who are running for office to speak out against it, right?
Yeah, I agree with that. You know, like I feel like yes, we are very individualistic, you could say, but we're a collective of individuals. You know, not literally a collective in the sense of what a collective is. Um, like we gotta like let's like the
Right.
one for all for one model of the Three Musketeers. You know, like when somebody's liberty is attacked, it's like they're attacking our liberty, whether we see it or not. We might not be in that position they're in right now, but their situation is a situation that we could all be in if we were in the same, you know, like got to the same predicament.
I would like for a libertarian, somebody, to tell me what is more important than the safety and security of the fundamental liberty principle of raising your children absent interference of the state, minus any finding of immediate endangerment or harm. You see, I can't fathom for the life of me that anything is fucking more important than recognizing millions of parents are just like me. You see, I was really, in my opinion, and to my knowledge, unless somebody could show me otherwise or correct me on this, I was the first major candidate in the Libertarian Party who ran on and pushed an issue of reforming family law, right? We should be considered equal in the eyes of the court. So how do we have, without it being written into state statutes, all states, all 50 states have a pattern and practice of every other weekend for fathers. 85 to 90% of full custody goes to moms. 85 to 90% of all child support is paid by dads. The majority of all individuals incarcerated for contempt of court is fathers. They're cycled into debtors' prisons relentlessly. And in many cases, they have no right to an attorney, no right to a trial by jury, because it's in a civil court, not in a criminal court. Eighth Amendment protections of cruel and unusual punishment, protecting you from cruel and unusual punishment, do not apply because it's not criminal, it's civil. What could be more cruel and inhumane than separating children from a parent who was never charged with a crime, never convicted of any crime, never found to be an endangerment or unfit? And those are the requirements that the states have. And the states ignore these, and the judges do so with impunity because they have judicial discretion that they hide behind, and they have judicial immunity because the Supreme Court said so, because judges said so.
And now that you're mentioning that, that's a thing. A lot of like people and libertarians in general in our own party don't realize that like your issue, like they like to criticize it, right? Because they're like, oh, well, that's Cash's problem, not mine, right? But they don't understand that the root of the problem is tyranny itself. You know, it's like tyranny is like a fucking dark cloud over the tree of liberty that's sending like their little fucking tentacles in the forms of like lightning trying to burn our tree of liberty down, like to make an allegory out of it, right? And every branch is you guys want to say, Cash?
Yeah, I want to read something. Yeah, I want to read something here. I'm going to pull it up real quick. Just give me a second. Let me pull it up. I'm going to read something to your listeners, your followers. Okay.
All right, go ahead.
I want them to listen very carefully. I think by and large, libertarians are intelligent people that will spend the time to research, to understand an issue. Okay. I believe that most of them will do that because many were led to libertarianism, like myself, where they saw or had a direct experience inside some area of government that really woke them up and shook them to their core, and they go, everything is not what I thought it was. And so they begin to question their allegiance to mainstream politics.
Yeah.
All right, I've almost got it. Give me 1 second.
Look, while you're looking for
I
the
didn't grab
passage
the
you're
one
trying
that
to
I
read,
wanted, but
I'm gonna give you a quick summary of my political history. So the first time I was able to vote was in the 2008 election, right? Sadly, I voted for Barack Obama,
okay.
for the Democratic Party because I
Right.
believe
Okay.
what other people believe, that they were the good guys and everybody else was the bad guy. You know what I'm saying? Then I realized, what the fuck? I should have voted
Right.
for Ron Paul. I'm like, I agree more with Ron Paul. So I thought, so I was like, maybe I'm a Republican, not a Democrat. So I started looking more into it. And eventually I got to the point where I'm like, wait a minute, I don't
Okay.
agree with neither party. I agree with with some other party. And then I discovered what the Libertarian Party was, thanks to this book actually that I got right here. And no, they didn't pay me to sponsor it. I read this one when I was locked up, right? It is dangerous to be right when the government is wrong, by Judge Napolitano. The case for personal freedom. I'm like, holy shit, I'm a
Oh
fucking
yeah.
libertarian. That's what I am. That's how I became a libertarian. As soon as I got out
Hey,
of
that's a
prison,
cool story, man.
yeah, I got out of prison. I was reading like hell, and when I was locked up, that was how I was decided to spend my time,
What
just
was you?
listening. You know.
Can I ask what you were? Can I ask what you were in prison for?
Yeah. So I was celebrating success in 2015, and then one thing led to another. An altercation. Drunk people do stupid shit, and I ended up getting a DUI after crashing into this car. And I got locked up for aggravated DUI
Okay.
and like 6 or 10 murders, but they ended up dropping it to just an aggravated battery with a deadly weapon and the aggravated DUI. So I only did 4 years at 50%. So I ended up doing just 2 years. Came out in 2017, and right away I registered for the Libertarian Party. Like, what about you? What made
So,
you a libertarian?
so you, uh, them fucking with my family and my children.
Yeah, but like, how did you
That's
discover
really
that
it,
was the party for
right?
you?
Well, so I was in Washington State. It was 2014, 15-ish, somewhere in there.
Mm-hmm.
2013 maybe. And I don't know. I started to just meet people within the family law reform movement, and some of those people were involved in some local politics there in Kitsap County, Washington, where I was stationed at. And so I went to one Republican meeting there in Silverdale, Washington, and it was the quintessential just fucking bitter old white dudes. And I sat in there and listened to them bitch and moan and argue amongst one another. And I'm like, Jesus Christ. I'm like, these guys need to retire. Like
Yeah.
what these guys are talking about. I'm like, that's 1950, dude.
Like, what kind of stuff were they saying, or what?
No,
Like,
I'm
so
like,
we could get an
no.
idea.
Well, they, just typical Republicanism. A lot of it's, they're of course they're in the military community. A lot of them are veterans. They're very pro-military. The Republican Party, I believe, has probably a better reputation with the military as far as being outspoken in their support and what have you.
Yeah, like they're pro-war,
I believe the Republican Party's just been,
yeah,
right. They're fantastic fucking dog whistlers, is what they are. The same with the Democratic Party. They're fantastic dog whistlers to just summon their whatever victim group that they want to try and latch onto and victimize. They don't give two fucks about veterans, right? I've spoken to Republican legislators. There's Republican senators and House reps in the state of Illinois that are aware of my case. They've never went public. They've never said shit about it. They've never spoken out against it. They've got a judicial committee. Where are the checks and the balances in government? They just don't fucking exist. The executive branch runs roughshod over people. The judicial branch definitely runs roughshod over people. And they are the most secretive of any of the branches. We submitted FOIA requests to multiple counties in Illinois, and we wanted to find out how many of these red flag backdoor gun laws known as emergency orders of protection. They just rubber stamp these bastards in secret hearings. They're like star chambers. They rubber stamp these things. Let's say you got accused by a prior domestic partner of some kind. they say that you hurt them or they're afraid of you, 9 times out of 10, that judge is rubber stamping that shit. Okay. And you're going to get served. They're going to instantaneously take your guns. It's an immediate revocation of all Second Amendment rights. It's an immediate, you might as well say Fourth Amendment seizure, because you can't go to your home. You can't interact with your children if they're listed as protected parties on there. Yeah, oftentimes you can't speak out. You can't use any third party. So your First Amendment right is infringed upon. Your due process rights have been infringed upon because you weren't even present. You had no opportunity to confront your accuser. You won't be able to confront your accuser, if you're lucky, for 2 to 3 weeks. Right? And we submitted a request to the judicial branch in Illinois in multiple courthouses, and every single one said that the judicial branch of Illinois, the 7th largest state in the nation, is exempt from any type of releasing any public information. They don't have to. The whole judicial branch. So you've got an entire branch of state government that has dominion and power and authority over men's lives, and they systematically deprive citizens of their children with absolute immunity and impunity. And any investigation or complaints that are filed go before an Illinois Judicial Conduct Board, and the punishments never fit the crime. They never fit the crime. You go back and look and read and see what the punishments are. It doesn't remotely rise to any type
literally
of
what
justice.
happened to me. Because, like, you know how I told you I got convicted of aggravated DUI and aggravated battery? If you read the law, like by definition, it says the aggravated battery means I intentionally did what I did because I knew what I was doing. And then aggravated DUI says that I was not in the right mind state. So I'm like, well, which one is it? You know, you can't technically convict me for both. I was in one mind state or the other. So, like, that's one thing I've noticed about our justice system that's too fucked up. Like, I used to always go to the law library and read like different like case studies, like cases or whatever. I'm like, what the fuck? Like, I feel like that's one of the things that fucked up with our country, that people and the government itself, especially politicians, they don't apply logic to their solutions or their arguments.
Zero.
You know, like that's like where the flaw is.
It's all emotionally based. It's all emotionally based. It's all born and bred around, you know,
like based on their
cottage industries can prop up. And yeah, so let me read this to people. Okay, when they say that Kash Jackson's a one issue candidate, right? Okay, fine, right? But I'm going to tell you what that one issue is, and it's not what most people say that it is. They say that Kash Jackson is just about fathers' rights. That is complete horseshit. I recite fatherless statistics the most because we have macro data that supports what happens when kids grow up in fatherless homes, right? So I'm in fact discussing the importance of fathers. I am not saying that mothers are inept or incapable. What I'm saying is that you're doing something that is contrary to what God or nature designed, which was for, it took the same amount of chromosomes, I think 23 from the mother, 23 from the father to create this child, though I'm no fucking biologist or scientist.
Yeah, that's correct.
It took equality to bring that child into the world, yet equality, it does not run across the board as it comes to seeing your kids. So here we go. Let me tell you about this single issue here, the father absence crisis in America. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 18.3 million children, and this is a little, I think this one's a little dated. Yeah, I think this was, I can't quite make it out. I don't have my reading glasses. 18.3 million children, 1 in 4, live without a biological step or adoptive father in the home. Okay, 25%, 1 in 4. Consequently, there is a father factor in nearly all of the societal ills facing America today. Research shows when a child is raised in a father-absent home, he or she is affected in the following ways. And the source is from the U.S. Census Bureau, I believe dated 2000. So these are old. It's gotten significantly worse. But at that time, they were at four times greater risk of poverty. We know that if they're living in poverty, there's a host of other sub issues that arise here: living on welfare, living on the streets, committing crime, abusing drugs, right? There's a few libertarian issues that we talk about, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
already we realize this ain't just a single issue. Teen pregnancy, they're 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen. We fucking bat around the issue of abortion and how to solve it all the time. You're 7 times more likely to become pregnant as a teen if you grew up in a fatherless home. So one would think, I guess maybe it's important to have dad around. Okay, let's jump over to child abuse. They're more likely to face abuse and neglect. They're more likely to have behavioral problems. The mom-child health, they're at 2 times greater risk of infant mortality. They're more likely to abuse drugs and alcohol. They're more likely to go to prison. They're more likely to suffer from obesity, more likely to commit violent crime, and far more likely to drop out of high school. All libertarian issues that we discuss, and this is a primary factor. 25%, at least 25% of American children are growing up absent their biological fathers, and it's not because you got a bunch of deadbeat dads that woke up one day and said, I think I'm going to go down to fucking Acapulco and party it up and leave my wife and children.
Yeah.
No, most of us want to raise our kids. We want to do the work. We want to be dads, right? We want to pick them up. We want to change their diapers. We want to take them to school. We want to go to PTA meetings, right? We want sleepovers. Okay. We want their be able to take them and their friends to play hockey or ice skate or
enjoy the things that
whatever.
moms usually complain about doing all the time. Like they're like, oh, why do I always got to do that? Like, well, the dad wants to do it too. Shit, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, right.
And
But the judicial system doesn't profit, right? If you remove all of the conflict, and the conflict revolves around time with the children, okay, and the time with the children directly impacts the amount of child support somebody pays.
yeah.
Those two things, that money, okay, and time with the kids, those are the two things that cause the most conflict.
And I got an example, for example, of a friend. So whatever, he got separated from his girl. They were not married, but they had like 3 children, and they went to court or whatever, and they ended up having like shared custody. Like the judge determined that they were both eligible for having sharing custody of the children. But the problem is the children went to live with the mom, and the dad, he literally, he loves his children. He always spoiled his children. But the problem is that the mom, to kind of get back at him, doesn't let him see the kids, or forbids the kids from even trying to go with him. And he has a court order that technically says that he has the right to see the kids. But the problem is that every time he tries to like call the cops to get involved, the cops are like, they don't do shit. They don't enforce a court order. So it's like, so you enforce other bullshit, but you don't enforce actual agreements that are literally from, you know what I'm saying, from the same authority that gives you authority. You know what I'm saying? And
well, ask yourself that. Why don't they enforce it? Police like to enforce shit. Okay. Why don't they enforce it? We got to ask ourselves that. Why do the police, and this is nationally, across the country, most states have some sort of a statute or penal code that says you can't interfere with parenting time, which was largely known as visitation.
Yeah.
You can't interfere with that court order. Yet it's done every single day in a court order that was issued by a lawful authority or judge or administrator with a stamp on it, and you can show it to a police officer and they're going to tell you nothing I can do, it's civil. Why? Why is that the case?
Because they don't get funding for it. That's my opinion on it. They don't get paid for doing that. They get paid for busting drug dealers, collecting, pretty much violating the Second Amendment and stealing unregistered weapons from like people that don't bother getting a FOID card or can't get a FOID card. Yeah, that's kind of like the opinion I have on that. Like, what do you think the reason is that they don't enforce those laws besides the reasons I'm mentioning?
I'll tell you exactly why. there's a single point of failure, right? It's the it is the judicial branch in its entirety. Who presses charges? Who
The
fucking
state
files the
prosecutor,
charges against somebody?
the judicial branch,
Which is a what?
state's
Which is a
attorney,
what?
prosecutor, state's attorney.
An attorney.
Hmm.
He's a fucking attorney, right? He's an attorney.
Yep.
He decides who gets prosecuted, who gets charged, right?
Yeah, even if the victim doesn't
That's
want to
why.
press charges anymore.
Because they don't charge them.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And so in a criminal case, even if the victim doesn't want to press charges, oftentimes the state's attorney will press forward with the charges and say, it's out of your hands. There's nothing you can do about this. This is a crime and we're going to prosecute it. Right. In this case, it is child abuse. It is domestic violence by proxy. You are mentally and emotionally abusing another human being, okay, whoever the non-custodial is. Majority of the time, it winds up being a father.
Yep.
And they will use that emotional and mental manipulation, use those children, just like you said. They'll use those children, and what your friend has to do is he has to file a contempt charge. He has to go in and file for probably what is known as a rule to show cause, okay? And so he'll have to draft up a motion. He'll have to get a notice of a motion filed. He'll have to do some discovery and get some evidence and introduce all of that in accordance with the local, federal, and Supreme Court rules of civil procedure. He'll have to do all that stuff on his own if he can't afford one. So do you think these guys ever get any fucking justice? No, they don't, because they're working stiffs. They're working their asses off. They're at work fucking all the time. They can't afford to take off. I see guys all the time. They'll take off. I've seen guys take off work, fly across the country to try and see their kids for a few hours on a Sunday in a visitation center, and mom not show up. And they took time off of work. They bought plane tickets. They flew. It is fucking torture to another human being is what it is. And it's time we start calling it for what it is. And these people are sick and they're sadistic. They should go to prison for what they're doing.
To be honest, that's almost as bad as.
I mean, really, like.
Yeah. That's literally like.
It's terrible. Who does that?
Similar to like committing fraud or lying to somebody or getting somebody killed, or it's like almost as serious as that, you know? It's a very malignant thing to do to somebody. Fucking evil, you know? I wanted to talk to you.
And nobody, and yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Say what you were gonna say first.
Nah, you're good. You're good.
I was gonna mention like you know how we were talking about like that some people don't back you up, but you see how the state does it. Like even if the victim doesn't want to like ask for restitution anymore, if they got enough evidence, they still go with the case. And when you see the case, it's you against the people of Illinois versus you. And that's how the Libertarian Party should act when one of us is attacked. You know what I'm saying? When our liberty is attacked, like, you know, it's the motherfucking government versus Kash. Like, fuck that.
Right.
It's the government versus all of us. What you talking about? Versus we the people. That's what the fuck
all of us. Yeah. If we start doing that, and that's a great point, man. And I'm glad that you bring that up. We should be doing that. We should be coming to one another's aid in mass numbers, not dismissing somebody so callously to go, well, isn't this the guy who's a single issue person? Does anybody out there give a fuck that I haven't seen my kids in over 2 years? That it cost me like $10,000 or $12,000
and I'm pretty sure a lot of
calls?
people watching this give a fuck. They're gonna be like, hell yeah, I agree with him. You know, they're gonna be glad I brought you on my show to hear you.
And what's the answer? What's the answer? People go, the majority of people in society will go, well, you need a better attorney.
That's their ignorance speaking.
Stop right
there. They're naive.
Stop right there. Just fucking stop. Okay. It's like, I want to use a good example here.
That's like the same argument.
These are the very people. This is their industry. You understand? Family law attorneys, that's their industry. Okay. Now, for somebody like myself, once you speak up, once you really draw your line in the sand, like I did in 2016, and you say, that's it, no more abuse, no more. I'm not going to be quiet. I'm not going to be silent. This is my line in the sand. I'm speaking up. I'm seeking reform. I'm doing everything that I can do to say this is wrong. And yet, when that happens, these people will literally take your children from you. They will gag you. They will threaten you. If you post about this, we'll put you in jail. I listened to an audio recording today, okay, of a judge and a litigant that I've listened to before, or that I observed their court hearing before. And you know what this judge made sure that she did before she commenced this proceeding? Because the proceeding, like in many cases right now during COVID, was via Zoom. It was for a disabled veteran. They have illegally told this gentleman that he must relinquish his military disability and child support payments. They include it in income calculations because states continue to rely on outdated case law known as Rose v. Rose. Well, the best example I can give you that Rose v. Rose is not the current precedence. I would invite you to go and look at the case of Foster v. Foster in the state of Michigan, which was recently heard in the Michigan Supreme Court when an attorney by the name of Carson Tucker, who is a veteran himself, defended Ray Foster, who was court ordered to transfer his money, not in child support, okay, but it was like a marital property agreement. But the basis of the argument, the very basis of the argument, is the supremacy clause, in that the states lack any authority or jurisdiction over those benefits, that only the Secretary of the Veterans Administration has any ability to redefine those monies. By definition, by the IRS definition, it is not remuneration for employment purposes. It is not, in fact, income. There is one accessible point to access those veterans' disability benefits for those purposes, for child support or alimony or anything else. And that is through an apportionment process with the Veterans Administration. That is something that the custodial parent has to pursue. The non-custodial parent, it is my understanding, cannot do that. But a court cannot mandate that they file the apportionment because it is it's federal jurisdiction. So in this case, they recorded the judge. So number one, this judge in this court is breaking federal law. And I invite you again to go see Foster v. Foster in Michigan. It's a Michigan Supreme Court case. It just happened like a month ago around Thanksgiving. And they ordered his ex-wife to repay $72,000 in those benefits back to him. But they screwed him because they didn't order reasonable attorney fees. And reasonable attorney fees were that it took him 6 years and over $150,000 in litigation to correct the fucking problem, right? Justice delayed is justice denied. And if you can't afford justice, it's being denied. And that's something as libertarians, we need to start stomping our fucking feet about and coming together and going, look, what is the majority of American suffering in this country? Okay. The average American is not discussing prostitution. We're largely over the whole cannabis thing. It's going to come off the Schedule 1 list eventually. It's going to happen. If that requires me to go stand in front of the White House in my uniform and fucking smoke a blunt, we'll do that. I'm willing to do that with some libertarians if they want. I'm willing to do it while exercising my Second Amendment right. I don't give a shit. But what I'm not going to entertain is sitting on my ass and bouncing back and forth these really far left issues as though they're the most important item or agenda of the day. Liberty is important no matter which way we cut it. But for this libertarian, the most important aspect of liberty worth fighting for is that of our families and our children. And that's what the fuck I'm going to do. And I don't care who likes it.
And that's what I'm talking about, Cash. You know how I told you, like, yes, we're pro-liberty. Everybody fucking knows that. Our fucking name of the party says liberty in it. You know, sometimes we use the Statue of Liberty. That's self-explanatory. Right. We don't got a campaign saying we're pro-liberty. We got to tackle certain issues. Why are we pro-liberty? Because motherfucking judges are taking our fucking kids. Because fucking, I don't know what you want to call them. I guess tyrannical, like, husbands, wives, you know, are trying to play games and use our kids as pawns to torture us, you know, like men and women alike. And it all comes down to that. Like, we got to focus on issues like that, you know. Like,
let me tell you, I don't know if you can bring anything up on your broadcast. Are you able to bring up anything and put it on the screen
yeah,
for
just let me know what you want me to
viewers and your
search.
followers?
What do you want me to search?
I want you to search. It's a Latin phrase, okay, and I'll spell it for you. PARENSPATRIAE, I think. I could have fucked that
Paresthesia.
up. I am from Louisiana, and they're ranked last in the nation for education. So that's my defense if I fuck that spelling up. Parents patria. It's a Latin phrase. Can you tell us what it means?
All right, give me a second. I found it. All right, I'm gonna screen share so they can see the definition. All right, there you go. That's the word you're talking about, right? Parent of the nation is a translation in Latin.
What is it?
Parens patria is Latin for parent of the nation. In law, it refers to the public policy power of the state to intervene against an abusive or negligent parent, legal guardian, or informal caretaker, and to act as the parent of any child, individual, or animal who is in need of protection.
Now, let's take out some key pieces here. Okay. Parent of the nation. In law, it refers to the public policy power of the state to intervene against an abusive, okay,
Yeah.
or negligent. As soon as you centered, I'll finish reading it. Or negligent parent, legal guardian, or informal caretaker, and to act as the parent of any child, individual, or animal who is in need of protection. Who is in need of protection? I listened to a judge out of New York, another one that I live streamed without their permission. And you can go and see these on my page on Facebook. I've live streamed several judges without their permission. And somebody's going, that's bad advice, Cash. Don't do that. Why in the fuck are we against transparency? Why are we allowing?
We should be in favor, especially when it's government agencies. You know, we should be in favor of transparency when it comes to government.
These are public courts.
Yep.
They're public courts. You can fucking walk it. They're streaming them to YouTube. You understand this? They're streaming. They're oftentimes they're using a platform just like Zoom for the court hearings, and then they stream it right onto YouTube channels. Lake County, Illinois is no different. I would invite you to go to Lake County, Illinois. Let's do that. Can you play a video? This would be awesome.
Yeah.
You'll like this.
Let me see. So Lake County, Illinois.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you'll like this. Yeah. Just go the Lake County, Illinois, or YouTube channel, or 19th Judicial Circuit YouTube channel, whatever. Yeah, you want they've got a public service announcement on the courthouse website. You're going to love this shit. Let me break this stuff down Barney style for people, because they think that the judicial system is beyond reproach. There's no, they wear black robes and they go to law school, so they must be completely moral and principled, and they would never do anything to undermine the Constitution or your liberties.
Let me screen share it again so I can optimize it for a video. Hold on, give me a second.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to stoke my fire over in my fireplace.
Please join me in the recitation of the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
All right. Where do you want me to go? Cash, can you hear me? All right, I'm in the website already. Just let me know where to go. Hold on. Give me a second. All right. So where do I go? To the video?
YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah, so scroll down and find their COVID public service announcement. Yeah, it's gonna be in the videos. Oh no, scroll down. You passed it. It's that zoom in one on the bottom, on the right hand side of your screen. Go down. No. Go back down to those videos. A little bit more. Scroll down a little more. There it is. Got court, no worries. Just zoom in. That
one?
Yeah, that 2-minute one. Got court, no worries. Yeah, that's the one. So you're going to see my Judge Janelle Christensen in here. She's a cow.
No worries.
Just zoom in.
For the safety of the public, starting June 1st, all court
That's her.
will be via.
I like how it's
There is no reason for you to come to the courthouse.
So whether you're expected to appear in a family, small claims, criminal, or order
Family.
protection matter,
No worries. Just zoom in.
All you need is a laptop computer with a microphone and camera, or iPad. Or
Unless you're Kash fucking Jackson.
Matter in small claims. What should I do?
Download the free Zoom app, then go to the 19th Judicial Circuit webpage. It's so easy. Watch and see. Click on the remote Zoom Hearings tab and simply find the correct courtroom and click on the courtroom schedule you are to appear in. Next, find the Zoom session related to the day and time of your case and click Join Now. After entering the Zoom meeting ID and password, you will be placed into the Zoom waiting room. The judge will let you into the virtual courtroom when your case is ready to be called.
I get it. Click, 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 and then I'm in the virtual courtroom.
I have a hearing in my family law case, but I don't have a smartphone or a tablet. What should I do?
No worries. Simply use your phone and call in. Watch and see. You'll need to get on the internet and go to the 19th Judicial Circuit webpage. Click on the remote Zoom Hearings tab and simply find the correct courtroom and click on the courtroom schedule you are to appear in. Next, find the Zoom session related to the day and time of your case and locate the phone number related to that session. If you don't have access to a phone or the internet, no problem. We have Zoom computers set up in the Lake County Law Library for you to use and join the Zoom hearing.
Virtual
Yeah.
best way for the 19th Judicial Circuit to protect the public while still allowing
It sort of
full
sounds
access
like
to justice.
just remember.
it's like anytime you go to court, like
Let
the
it
only
keep going.
reason
Address and act
they don't
appropriately.
allow more people.
And remember,
Got court? No worries.
Just zoom in.
And remember,
Well, yeah, Cash.
unless
is
you're
like,
Kash fucking Jackson, you're ordered to appear in person. They order me to appear in person. They won't let me, and I don't go. I'm like, I'm not going. You're under COVID measures, right? Fuck you. I'm not going. I'm not going. You're supposed to make reasonable accommodations. They don't. The only reason they order me to appear in person is because they know I'll stream these fuck bags and I'll show the whole world what they are because they run secret chambers. They have an obligation to ensure that you have a record. Almost to 6 years of my fucking record. No transcripts, right? No recordings. You can't record with your fucking phone, yet those attorneys can come in there. They can be on their phone all the time. But if you're a pro se litigant, you're representing yourself, you're treated as an attorney as long as you're up there in front of the judge, right? But you don't get any of the courtesies, right, that they get. So if I need to look at my phone for something that, I'm arguing my case, right?
they'll be like, put it away.
Not
Put it
you.
away.
Only attorneys, they'll seize it. So they order me to appear. Think about that, dude. You just saw a whole public service announcement that said
Like,
that
go ahead,
whether it's
encouraging you
criminal,
to use
civil, probate,
Yeah.
it's via Zoom. They said it. They didn't say unless or if. They said all. That public service announcement says all. So why the fuck did they order me to appear? Well, because they want to slap the handcuffs on me again, and I'm not going to let them do it.
Hey, that's technically like me. I'm studying law. The way I see it, it looks like that's a case for false advertising. If they're trying to make you like force you to go to court in person, but you got a whole commercial that we just literally aired on the live as evidence that they clearly use the word "all." Remember, it's all about what words you use and how and what you say when you present that shit in court.
Yeah.
Hey, what you talking about? Yep. And you could even get I think they call it injunctions, where the courts is forced to always do all the Zoom meetings. Like if you want it and through Zoom, it has to be through Zoom because they said all of them are through Zoom.
All of them were through Zoom.
And it's already 7 o'clock.
And I see it all the time.
Yeah, Cash, I know you got to do something, and
Yeah,
I don't want to keep you. All right, so I just want to make sure I ask you a few questions. to make sure I get the answer from you. So it's like
Yep.
you were saying, nobody should need money to win a fucking case. You shouldn't even need a fucking lawyer. Like the law should be
Especially for your
simple enough.
kids.
Yeah,
Especially for your kids. Are
exactly.
you
Like
kidding me?
the law
Tens
should
of
be
thousands
so
of dollars.
simple that as long as you're able to make sense, that should be the damn law. That should be in your favor already. You
Let me
get me?
tell you, this is a fucking war against the ruling class, because when you think about this, all right, you go in front of a criminal court, right? Let's take let's take that perfect example of that young man from the inner city who had a little weed on him, got Terry stop on him, and the cops, found a little smoke on him, said, well, yeah, here you go, young man, 18, 19, 20 years old, you're going off to court. Of course, more than likely he's going to end up with some public defender. And on the bottom of the rung are these public defenders, these shitbirds that get assigned to people that literally, I just want somebody to justify for me why the American people don't get the very fucking best of those who are practicing law and are public defenders. We should get the bottom of the barrel. We shouldn't get the one who's just fresh out of fucking law school and impressionable, and his or her career is dependent upon playing ball. You know what I mean? Because if you got a senior state's attorney, prosecuting attorney, right? They're angling their way up that political ladder. If they've got some outcome that they desire in particular cases to help with their fucking political aspirations, you bet your ass they're going to influence that young prosecutor into a certain outcome. That's why they have such a ridiculous rate of people that cop a plea. I mean, damn,
like
you've got a dumbass for an attorney, and then they threaten you with 20 years. You're going to do 5 years if you don't take this plea. That's when they'll fucking jack up the plea, or the agreement. They'll go, oh, well, we're going to threaten you. We're going to use 20 years. You don't fucking cop a plea, you're doing 20, or you can admit to it and do 5, knowing full well they have no reason, no cause to stop you. There was no rise of, there wasn't enough reason for them to stop that individual, do a Terry stop, whatever fucking law they broke. But you're still going to get the shitbird as the individual, that young man. I mean, they fuck your life from the get-go, and they know it. They do it on purpose.
Yeah, definitely. Like a prime example is the trial of the Chicago 7. Even the lawyer they hired, he was like the best of the best they had. And the government is the one that uses the best lawyers there is, because they know any lawyer could be able to argue the same fucking case. Even they know it, and I sometimes wonder if they even feel remorse. Like how does it feel playing devil's advocate? The goal of lawyers should be justice, not siding with either one. It's like, all right, these are the facts, and this is what the law says, and this is what it should be based on what our laws are and what the elements are and the evidence is. Before
the problem is that they've taken a bunch of our natural liberties and they've turned them into an industry. They
that's
take
what
the
I wanted
rights
to talk
away,
to you about.
they strip you of them, and then they sell. Yeah.
The Ninth Amendment. How familiar are you with it?
If I pull it up, let's read it. Let's read it with everybody.
All right, so check this out. All right, give me a second. Let me pull it up. So while I'm looking it up
and admitting I don't know it all.
Not to check this out, Cash. I think people should know more about what the Ninth Amendment says and is. Hold on. Okay.
Sure. I never cite it.
Yeah. So if anything, that's the one that I tell every libertarian that's the one we should be advocating for, because that one's the one that protects our liberty, which includes our right to be fathers, mothers, parents. And what we do and don't do, without government interference. So look, the Ninth Amendment was part of the Bill of Rights that was added to the Constitution, right? It says that all the rights not listed in the Constitution belong to the people, not the government. So that includes not the state government and not the federal government, the people. Because remember, the people is technically the government,
People, yeah.
Yeah. So in other words, the rights of the people are not limited to just the rights or freedoms listed in the Constitution. What are your thoughts on that?
Right.
And
No,
I
I
feel like
think
that's
it's a
the most
fantastic point,
overlooked
man.
and most
thanks for-
important amendment.
Thanks for kicking me. You're right, man. It is an overlook, and I'll be honest with you and say I've overlooked it, and haven't placed that
Yeah, go ahead.
emphasis on it. But even then, even with the emphasis, though, here's the problem: is that when you have an entire branch of government that's saying we're immune, okay, that we can act inside our judicial discretion. So basically, once they put on that black robe, they can do whatever. They're gods, right? When they punch in, okay, they clock in, they're fucking gods. In
Yeah,
their
they're
eyes,
fucking
they're
tyrannical
gods
ass
over
gods.
you, and
you
they
know?
can do what they want to you. And so if we don't enforce anything, if we don't enforce our constitutional rights, who gives? I mean, it's just one more to the fold. I mean, they're already blatantly and willingly violating, other ones.
And that's
They
the
don't
main
give a
one. That's the
fuck.
thing. That's the main one
And
they're
if we don't
violating.
punish them,
Yeah. And that's the problem. Like I'm gonna elaborate a
we
little
can
bit
sit
more.
there
Right?
all day.
Yeah. So that's the main one
Okay.
they're violating, because that one represents our liberty. And what people don't understand is that we are born with our liberty. We're born with our rights. The Constitution does not give us rights, and they don't understand that. They think the Constitution is what gives us rights. I'm like,
Correct.
all right, so you want to think that the Constitution gave you rights? Then what the fuck gave you the right to even make the Constitution in the first place? You know, I'm like, liberty. What the fuck?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what the fuck? I'm like, where's your argument
What
at?
came
Like,
first, the chicken or the egg?
yeah, it's like, what the fuck are you
Yeah,
talking
liberty
about?
wasn't born out of the Constitution. Liberty exists. Liberty exists inside the very precept that you're a sentient being on this fucking planet, right? And you have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to survive. You have the right to thrive if you work to such ends. Government doesn't give a shit about that. What they give a fuck about is that they dupe you into believing that there's this American dream out there for everybody to pursue: the white picket fence, the spouse, the 2 kids, and the golden retriever. That's all bullshit, right? To get you into the mindset of, I have to work, I have to have this, I have to pay property taxes, I have
They
to
wanna
pay tax on
enslave
top of
us.
tax and sacrifice more of my time. And we convince ourselves that it's fucking cool. I worked 60 hours this week. I worked 80 hours. What a monumental dumb fuck we are to promote breaking your back and giving over 1/3 of it to the government. Now, I'm not saying libertarians are the ones for that, but I do hear plenty of libertarians, and I've said it myself. I put in all these work hours at my fucking place of employment. That's not how life should be lived. Life should be lived more so, ensuring that your family and you are secure and safe, but not sacrificing all of that time that you could have with your families, raising your kids, making memories with your parents, building more relationships and rapport with others, and friendships and community. And we spend just far more time punching the clock, and we're so tired by the time we get home. We're too tired to play with our kids, too tired to spend time with our spouse. All we do is want to sit on the fucking couch and let our kids stay in their rooms on their devices. And it's becoming the demise of our nation.
And
Apathy is our problem. Ignorance is our problem.
hell yeah, people are too naive. So I got one last question for you, Cash, so I could let you go do your thing. So it involves like negative rights and positive rights. Are you familiar with what each one is, so I could explain what the question is?
Yeah, I mean, I'm vaguely familiar. It's not a term that I use a lot, right? I mean, my friend Justin Tucker would yell at me about this, like, Cash, you need to know more about negative rights and positive rights. I'm like,
Yeah.
Go ahead with the question.
No, but that's a very important thing, because like a couple of days ago, I was actually enlightening some of the Democratic Socialists of America regarding what they are, because there seems to be a confusion about what rights are, right? So I told them, well, if you understand the concept of negative and positive, you know that negative rights are what we call natural rights or human rights or civil liberties, right? That means things that we can do that, you know, we don't need somebody else to provide us with that, like provide something to us. So positive rights is like an obligation. So that's like healthcare, education, that requires somebody to provide something for us. You get me? So what I was gonna say is like, all right, for those people that are probably wondering, well, what gives us the right to see our children, stuff like that. So that's the what we could argue about, right? And I know you'll probably have a strong opinion towards it. So when do you think is when we, for example, like let's say I get with a girl, we consent to have sex, but either we consent or don't consent to have kids, but let's say we end up with a kid, and then it comes to the issue where she decides or I try to influence her decision of if she should have or not have the kid. And then when she actually has the kid, assuming she decided to keep it and not abort it, um, at what point does the kid become part of both of you again? Because you know how like if technically we agree to make a kid, doesn't that kid belong to like technically not like a property both of us, but it's both of our responsibility? At what point does it become responsibility? Because I had an argument in one of my Facebook posts regarding like deadbeats. You get me? Like the guys technically should have the right to either be in their kid's life or not be in their kid's
Financially abort.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that? Like when does it become the responsibility? Like based on what I said, like where do you think responsibility shifts? And like most people say that once you sign that birth certificate, you're financially responsible for that kid. Technically, that's how our law sees it.
Right. So let me say this. Number one, to all men out there, always get a DNA test. Always get a DNA test. You would not believe the amount of paternity fraud, meaning you're duped into believing you're the father and you're not. And once you sign that birth certificate, oh man, it is not as easy as they want to make it out to be to just make these fucking changes to things. Okay. So number one, get a paternity test. I don't give a shit if you think that kid's yours or the kid looks just like you. It might be your brother's for all you fucking know. Go get a DNA test. Secondly, there's a massive disparity in this nation in the application of reproductive health and that of the equality between parenting rights, right, and body autonomy. You cannot argue body autonomy for a woman and her right to have an abortion and then simultaneously argue that she can have a unilateral decision in the birth of the child, right? And if the father happens to be in the predicament you said, and just say maybe it's some 18, 19-year-old young man who goes, I'm not ready for this responsibility. I'm not ready. Okay. I don't want a child. Right. And she's going, well, I'm going to have the child with or without your consent. He doesn't have a fucking choice. Now she gets to use the state and the state authority and power. She gets to use the weaponization of government, of the executive and judicial branch via shitty domestic policies created by the legislative branch. And now that man, especially if he's an unwed father, can be ordered to use his time, his energy, and his labor to provide financially for that child, whether or not it's his. So if he got duped into it, right, if his name's on the birth certificate, you're fucked, buddy. Okay, if your name's on it, they're going to get you. And it's a complete hypocrisy in this country to say that you can own this man's body for the next 18 years in his labor. You can take up to 65% of his income, according to, I believe it's the Consumer Protection Act. I don't know how the fuck that's a protection, or the Consumer Credit Protection Act. I think that's what it is, CCPA.
Yeah.
But up to 60 to 65% if you have arrears in child support or alimony. Women have the ability to drop kids off at a safe haven, i.e. a fire station, a hospital, a police station. They can abort the child. They can adopt the child out with the father's permission. And all of these can be, and oftentimes is held a hero for the brave choices that she's made. At no time is a man ever held to be a hero if he says, well, I'm not ready for a kid. It is 100%, well, step up, you fucking deadbeat. You need to take care of your responsibilities. You laid down with that woman. You helped make that child. Motherfucker, she made a unilateral decision to bring that child into the world. Motherfucker, she told me that she was on birth control. Right? Men are duped every fucking day, and it's because men like me didn't spend enough time and energy educating younger men. And I'm not anti-woman at all. I am anti the inequality and the hypocrisy as it pertains to parentage in this country. Men want to be fathers. They have an equal right to these children. And because the application of the law has been incorrect for 50 or 60 years, and yeah, I'm going to fucking say it, it has been incorrect because they made it that way so that the federal government could send money back into the states, and the states could prop up larger state government, larger federal government. They push kids out of the picture. All of these conditions arise of crime, poverty, teen pregnancy. All of these issues arise. What happens? More expansion of government. The more you get government involved, the more it expands. The more you get them involved, the more it expands.
Yeah, definitely. It's like tyranny enforcing tyranny. So, and that's like a double standard. You get me? So, okay, so we're not allowed to force women to have our kids just because we want to be fathers. But then you say they could force men to be fathers or financially responsible for the kid. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially if it's ours, obviously, right?
And then you could be like in my case. My ex-wife's getting nearly $1,200 a month. A large portion of that is for child support, and then a part of that is because she's supposed to get 1/3 of my pension. Now take a woman who never served a day in her fucking life, didn't serve one day, hasn't missed a birthday, a Christmas. I missed the birth of my daughter. I didn't see her till she was 3 months old. Whenever I came in off deployment, I've missed countless days, memories, holidays, you name it, in my military service. She never served one day. And I'm supposed to turn over the entirety of my military pension after 20 years of service to somebody who never set foot in a fucking uniform, never went to boot camp, never did a fucking push-up in her life. And I'm supposed to give her 1/3 of my pension plus $1,200 a month in child support. That's bullshit. While keeping me from my kids for 2 years. It's inhumane. It's immoral. And the fact that, and that people that just go along to get along, and you got these idiot men out there who go, well, I paid my child support. This deadbeat needs to pay his. No, you dumb fuck. You shouldn't have settled for every other weekend. You should have said, I want equal custody. I don't want to pay child support. I want to raise my kids because the money I'm going to spend on my children is going to pay for my mortgage, my rent, my utilities. Yeah, I got to go, man. I got this guy calling in. But
that's fine. Hey, man, it's a hot topic. It's a hot topic. We appreciate you joining us.
Hold on, Chris.
Thanks for joining me, Cash. It's a fucking hot topic. All right. Enjoy your night. All right.
Hey, man. I enjoyed it. Thanks a lot, brother. Have a great one.
All right. You too.